How did helping a friend put you in the hospital? My friend Isabel begged me to help her scrape lead paint from her mom's old bedroom before her brother Ian got home because their dad was moving into that room tomorrow. She'd been trying to make the house safe since their mom died 2 months ago, but Ian wouldn't let her change anything. He'd already given her a black eye for trying to throw their mom's moldy curtains. We got to the house around noon, and Isabel's hands were shaking as she unlocked the door. The bedroom walls were peeling, paint chips everywhere, and Isabel said, "Dad's doctor said the lead exposure could kill him with his lung condition. We have to finish before Ian gets here." I told her we'd be done by 3 to be safe. We put on masks and started laying plastic sheets, then began scraping the toxic paint off the walls. Every car that passed outside made Isabel freeze and check the window. She kept saying, "That sounded like his truck," even though it was only 1 o'clock. I tried to keep her calm, talking about how we were literally saving their dad's life, but she couldn't stop checking her phone every 2 minutes. At 1:30, she dropped the scraper and ran to the window because she heard a truck door slam, but it was just the neighbors. Her whole body was trembling and she said, "Maybe we should stop. This was a bad idea." I convinced her to keep going, saying we were over halfway done, but I was getting nervous too because she'd shown me pictures of what Ian had done to her last time. We got most of the dangerous paint scraped and were sealing the walls when Isabel's phone buzzed. Her face went white looking at the text and she said, "Ian's foreman just said he left the site. He's been drinking. He'll be here in 20 minutes." It was only 2:30 and we still had toxic paint chips everywhere that needed to be bagged properly. I said we should leave immediately, but Isabel was crying, saying their dad would die if he breathed this stuff in with his condition. We worked frantically, stuffing paint chips into hazmat bags, trying to vacuum the dust, not caring about being neat anymore. Isabel kept checking the window, her breath coming in short gasps, lead paint dust on our clothes despite the protective gear. At 2:40, she heard an engine and looked out and screamed, "That's his truck!" Ian's pickup was pulling into the driveway, and even from upstairs, I could see him stumble getting out. Isabel tried to hide the hazmat bags, but there was nowhere to put them, and we were both covered in paint dust. Heavy footsteps on the stairs, slow and deliberate. Isabel grabbed my arm so tight it hurt and whispered, "Don't say anything. Let me talk." The bedroom door slammed open, and Ian stood there, 6'4", still in his work clothes, reeking of beer and sweat. His eyes went from us to the scraped walls to the bags of lead paint on the floor. His face turned dark red, and a vein started pulsing in his neck. "What the fuck did you do?" he said, his voice deadly quiet. Isabel tried to explain that the lead paint would kill Dad, but Ian crossed the room in 2 steps and slapped her so hard she fell into the paint chips we hadn't bagged yet. I yelled at him to stop, but he turned on me and said, "Get out of my house." I told him I wasn't leaving without Isabel, but he grabbed a hammer from his tool belt and said, "You want to test me?" Isabel was trying to get up, toxic paint dust in her hair, blood running from her nose. Ian kicked the hazmat bag across the room, lead chips flying everywhere, and screamed, "You ruined her room! You ruined everything!" He stood in the doorway, blocking our only exit, still holding the hammer. Isabel was crying and saying Dad would die from lead poisoning, but Ian grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the scraped wall. I tried to pull him off, but he swung the hammer at my head and I barely ducked in time, feeling it whistle past my ear. He had Isabel pinned with one hand on her throat and raised the hammer with the other. "You want to erase Mom? I'll erase you." I grabbed the scraper and slashed at his arm, making him let go of Isabel. She gasped for air and tried to run past him, but he caught her hair and yanked her back, throwing her into the bags of toxic paint. He came at me with the hammer and I backed up, but there was nowhere to go in the small room. He swung and I felt it graze my shoulder, sending shocking pain down my arm. Isabel grabbed his leg and he kicked her in the stomach, making her curl up gasping. He stood over her with the hammer raised and said, "You're just like Dad. Couldn't wait for her to die. Probably helped her along." Isabel sobbed that she was trying to save Dad, but Ian brought the hammer down, stopping just inches from her head, punching a hole in the floor. "Next one won't miss," he said. I tried to tackle him, but he was too big and threw me into the wall, my head hitting hard enough to see stars. Through blurry vision, I saw him standing over Isabel with the hammer raised again, his face twisted with grief and rage and alcohol, and she was begging him to remember that Mom wouldn't want Dad to die from lead poisoning. He was crying now too, screaming about how Isabel had killed their mom by putting her in hospice, how she'd given up on her. The hammer was shaking in his raised hand, and I couldn't get up fast enough and Isabel was trying to crawl away, but he planted his boot on her back, pinning her down. "Mom's room stays exactly how she left it," he said, and started bringing the hammer down. Full story on the channel below.